Hi, it's Elizabeth Willett here from Investing in Women, and I'm delighted to be joined on this week's LinkedIn and Facebook Live by Sophie Smallwood from Roleshare. I'm going to be talking all about job sharing today and whether it is for you, how you go about finding a job share partner, and what are the benefits to your organisation as well if you want to hire more job sharers. So as people are logging on, if you can let us know if you can hear us all okay, that would be brilliant. Give us a like or an emoji. But it's Elizabeth Willits from Investing in Women, and I'm chatting today with Sophie Smallwood from Roleshare, all about job sharing and whether it is for you. So thank you so much, Sophie, for joining me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be chatting with you because I'm so excited to find out a little bit more about job sharing and also your organisation and how it helps as well.
Amazing. So exciting to be here today and our first Facebook or LinkedIn live together.
Yeah, brilliant. So before we get going, it'd be really helpful if you introduced yourself and your background, and then we can talk a bit more about your inspiration for Roleshare.
Sure. Yeah. So if you can't hear from the accent, I'm not from the UK originally. I actually started my journey in Switzerland and flew across the pond to California and sort of went to university, early career, all in Los Angeles. I started in marketing and advertising, and I had this fear of missing out sort of at a certain point in my career where I saw tech start to become sort of the hot thing.
Yeah.
And the FOMO sort of led me to eBay, where I was part of a company called Magento e-commerce. And honestly, one of the greatest career experiences of my life was working at Magento e-commerce at the time. They were later sold off and now are part of Adobe. But so I started my career there, focused on, the enterprise side of account management and technology, and then transferred over to the UK to lead up the enterprise customer success division for EMEA. And it was when I was with Magento in Europe that Facebook was launching a early product called at the time it was Facebook at Work. It was sort of a beta product, an enterprise solution. And I ended up joining that team to really sort of establish the beginning of what it meant to have an enterprise customer success team, to deploy that solution across large organizations. And, it was a really cool job. It was a really fantastic job, like lots of traveling, working with amazing brands, a very strategic role that required a lot of sort of relationship management, like all the soft skills that you want people to have that role required, if you will. And it was also metrics driven because, you had data that sort of mapped back to your performance. And so I liked the balance of a job that was, in essence, in my view, European wide, that was people related, but also metrics driven. And it was full on. I was not a parent at that time yet.
No.
And it was when I was at Facebook that I became a parent for the first time. And, I really wanted to, sustain my career. I worked really, really hard for my career. I was a really good student in school and,
You're ambitious.
Very ambitious, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I found out I was pregnant, I started to really early on think about how I would sort of do this juggle moving forward. I knew my job, I understood it. I knew the amount of travel involved and just generally speaking, sort of the hours involved. And I was happy to do it. But I also knew now there was another little client coming, in the works that I had to.
Demanding client, aren't they?
Exactly, right? Very demanding and my favorite client of all time. And so, this was sort of early on in the journey of being pregnant that I started to think about that. And I remember one day I was living in Clapham at the time, and my husband and I were walking across Clapham Common early in the morning after a class at Virgin Active. And, I was just like, gosh, how am I going to do this like juggle moving forward? I love my job. I'm nervous about what this will mean for my ability to continue to perform or not feel completely burnt out. And, I'm about to bring this little person into our lives, and how are we going to do this juggle? And, my husband is really supportive. He's also my co-founder for Roleshare. And he's like, we'll figure it out. We'll make a plan. And I'm like, well, I wish that there was a place where I could find other people to share my job with. because my role is not a part-time type role. It's not something that I could do part-time. And I'd heard of this concept of job sharing in Los Angeles when I worked in advertising. And I knew people who did it, loved it. And so I thought for sure there would already be a place like that, like a platform where I could go and meet others to share my role. And, I started to research it, but there was no solution like that, like a sort of a self-serve platform where I could sort of, in my own sort of free will, just kind of browse and see if there'd be people that could be a good match for me, etc.
Yeah, like Tinder for work.
Exactly. Or like Bumble or whatever, choose your dating. And it really frustrated me because I thought, well, I mean, at this point, you can kind of like share anything short of a toothbrush, like through some kind of a platform these days. Why can't you
and there's
easily...
a lot of sharing, sharing.
Exactly. And so I thought, well, I find it a bit ridiculous and frustrating that, this isn't something that has been solved for. So that was kind of the beginning of Roleshare, the journey. And then obviously since then we've worked a lot, we've done a lot of research. We've, we raised the first round of funding last year. We've developed an enterprise solution as well. So that was the beginning of the journey.
Yeah, brilliant. And how has it been? This is more of a personal question, setting up something with your husband.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I don't know any different. I've only founded an organization with him, but I'm really grateful because we are extremely transparent and we have no barriers in the sense that, if I want something, I hold him accountable. He holds me accountable. There's no sort of hard feelings where you're afraid to kind of communicate something, you don't want to offend them. That doesn't exist. We have no barriers to communication. I think that's really beneficial. We're also extremely dedicated, not only to the business, but also to our mutual success, right? Making sure that
separate roles within the business.
We're co-CEOs, but we handle different aspects of the role. So I'm much more sort of outward marketing or enterprise customer success focused. Yeah. And then Dave is more like ops, financial and sales focused. So that's how we've divided it. And we both work with the team on the product side.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And so you decided to not return to Facebook after maternity leave?
Yeah. So I had my son. I then went on mat leave and I came back to Facebook for about 9 months.
Were you working on Roleshare in the background, or?
During the time that I was on mat leave, I was doing a little bit of research, but there really was no time for me to work on Roleshare when I was when I came back. And but it was always sort of in the back of my mind. And the main thing for me was that I just wanted something that gave me, like you heard this expression, I want my cake and I want to eat it too. And it just wasn't possible in a role that really was a full-time type of position. Mm-hmm. And, I, at that point was really prioritizing the time, for work. And we lived, door to door was probably about an hour and 10 minutes. And so I would leave very early, would get to spend very minimal time with my little one. And then I would come home and same thing. It was just very little time. But then beyond that, I started to really appreciate spending a little bit of time for me. My hope was to, sustain my career on a 3-day-a-week basis. By that point, I was a bit of an older mom. I had already sort of established a relatively solid career. And I was willing to kind of give up on the salary a bit, like work 3 days a week to have a day with my son, sort of like uninterrupted, and also have a day for me to do things that are important to me, to grow, to learn, to look after my health. And, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for that. And so, I started to think and look into options, whether it was part-time or whether it was like,
would Facebook not entertain the idea of a job share at that
at the time, I mean, a lot's changed now. To be fair, I never asked specifically. I kind of just looked at, stories. Yeah. And I sort of like saw what was happening around me and I was like, okay, that's not going to work out for me. So I'll start to look for other options. And then also it was just sort of like this belief that sharing really was something that could help a lot of people. And at that point, I had the experience working in technology. I had the experience of being a person who understood the pain point. and I was motivated to solve for it. So
Yeah.
really, when I left Facebook, I left because I wanted to start Roleshare.
It's a really unique site that you offer. And
Yeah,
I don't know, yeah, it's like really good, and it's a really cool idea, because I know that so many people love the idea of job sharing, but the biggest barrier is that they don't know anybody else to job share with. And
and you might know people, but sometimes the timing doesn't work out, right? So you might know someone. I think a lot of what we discovered during our research, people would say, oh, I've joined the platform. When I think about my career, there's probably like 5 people I can, name out that I would be happy to share a role with, but they're not looking to share a role right now. Like they don't need that flexibility. So yeah, ultimately it's about enabling this way of working for as many people as who want it. And another thing that's interesting is oftentimes when people talk about sharing roles, people who are actively doing it, they sort of self-describe themselves as very lucky. And so my goal is to basically take luck out of the equation and really make this something that is accessible to all, not just the lucky few.
Yeah, because it seems like a bit of a happy accident, doesn't it? When you see a job share at work, how did you do a job share? And you're like, oh, we were just at this point at this time, and maybe they're on mat leave together and they'd worked together before or whatever, and it's happy accident for them, and it seems elusive for everybody else.
Right. And people are like, oh gosh, I wish I could have that. And then they're like, oh, but how do I make it happen? And so that's kind of what we focused on, where we are in our journey today, is we're really helping solve for the beginning of the journey, right? Enabling people to first discover others that they could share a role with, helping people who already have jobs to share, to in essence find others that they could potentially bring into their companies to share roles. And we're also now working with large organizations who are opening up their jobs to be shareable as well, right? So of course, it's great to be able to meet people who'd want to share a role. And in some cases, that person has a job that they could share. But in other cases, people need those jobs that are actually shareable.
Yeah. So if people are watching this and think, I do quite like the sound of job sharing, I'm not really sure what it involves. So it'd be good to get a bit of a background to what a job share is, how it works in principle, and what are the benefits to an individual of job sharing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many benefits to job sharing that are really unique to this way of working versus just flexible working. If we just think about flexible working as a broad category. Sorry, Alexa is telling me there's motion at the front door. So I think firstly, how job sharing works. In the most common way of, doing job share, you have 2 people who together are sharing the roles, responsibilities, the benefits, and the salary of a job, right? They oftentimes have joint KPIs. In some cases, they might have an individual KPI that's specific to one person, and then they'll have the joint KPIs. But where we've seen this work best, I think, is when they have joint KPIs. Not that the role needs to be split exactly the same. Some pairs really like to be more what we call mirror job shares, where they literally share every aspect of the job and they do a handover and everything is seamless from the outside. Others, I think, focus on like their mutual strengths and will take on different aspects of the role. So that's part of what we help people figure out as well through our platform in when we're putting people together. And then as far as the benefits, once you get the foundation right, and you can actually get the roles that are shareable, then the benefits are incredible. So if you think about it from a individual perspective, the benefits are that, you have the ability to carry on in your career at the same band that you were in without having to take a hit. You can carry on with the trajectory and being promotable. We've seen many stories of people sharing jobs who've been promoted together multiple times. Also, there's something really special around having, a peer with you that is holding you accountable. You're holding each other accountable. It gives you an extra boost in confidence as well when you are presenting ideas to perhaps senior leaders. Coming together as allies really does help increase sort of the confidence that comes with presenting ideas. It's also an option to solve faster. Actually, people sometimes think, oh, well, 2 people, will you be able to solve as quickly? Yes, on days where one person isn't there, the person who is holding up the fort will make decisions. But in other cases, for very, very sensitive decisions, two people working together actually can solve faster, right? Sort of bouncing ideas off of each other. And then the other bit too is just the learning that comes along with it. When people are sharing a role, they're never identical. And so by default, there will be tremendous amount of knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer. And that's a great opportunity sort of, learn new skills in a sort of built-in coach, if you will. And then on the company side of things, and then of course there's the flexibility bit, right? So you get the flexibility.
Yeah, and also I think as well, I mean, someone that works flexibly, I work flexibly, and Friday is meant to be my non-work day because I have a little girl. But I'm constantly checking my phone because I know that there's nobody picking that up, and I think that sense of relief, somebody is picking up when you're not there. I think your work-life balance would be hugely improved.
It's that peace of mind and that relief, as you say, which is again very unique to this way of working, because you have that buddy who's going to pick it up for you, and they'll only reach out if it's really critical. And then on the company side, I think that's the harder message to sort of communicate. Oftentimes people see the benefit right away for people, even if it's not in great detail. But from companies, they get more continuity in a role that typically is covered even by one person. They get a greater or wider depth of skills for a role. So today, when you're hiring for one person, you're settling on the best candidate. But when you have two people, yes, from a logistical operational perspective, there's a little bit more complexity because it's two people. But in reality, you're in essence bridging the gap in the skills that you're bringing on for that role naturally by having two people. Exactly. Wider depth of skills. And then additionally, if one person were to leave the organization, which is a very common question, like what if one person leaves? What if they don't get along? Well, if they don't get along, then it's a way to, they can self-solve. They'll usually try to self-solve. If not, then one person might leave or go to another area of the business. And the good news is you still have continuity in the role, whereas normally you would have a huge gap, right? So that continuity, the business continuity is a huge benefit. The ability to have the accountability that comes along with the two people working together actually elevates the quality output and drives more productivity. And when two people are working together, when there's been a solid foundation to start, they actually have the highest level of well-being over any other way of working. And we know that well-being helps to drive more engagement. Engaged employees perform better. So there's a lot. I mean, this is just literally scratching the surface.
I'm like, sign me up.
And and you have to enjoy working with a colleague. That's important. You need to be a collaborative team player, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you were sort of saying people can get promotions, and we do see some instances where people are working, at very senior levels, are job sharing. So is that only internally, or can people apply, if they find their perfect job share partner, can they then apply for jobs externally together? How would that work?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we offer that. So that's not specific to job sharing as like a, as a verb, but certainly on Roleshare, we can enable employees to, come together, as well as net new talent.
Yeah, and then they'd do a joint application together.
Exactly. So if folks are interested in sharing a role, they would come onto Roleshare first and foremost, create your profile. It's very important because we are a technology platform. We match based on an algorithm. And so the individuals, by completing profiles, can meet others on platform, establish connections. And then beyond that, they can apply for roles that are shareable. They can either apply together, or they can apply individually as well. So you don't have to have a partner to apply, but we certainly recommend it.
Okay, so if you're interested in job sharing, you go on your site, you create a profile, your algorithm matches you with somebody, similar skill sets to you, then you apply for roles together. And if I'm in an established job share, I could just register with my partner. The site, and then we just apply for roles.
Exactly. Yeah. So you and your partner would both register separately, but then you'd be able to find each other, and then you could apply together. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And so all the jobs, and what sort of jobs do you have on your site?
So at the moment, we have a lot of financial services jobs. So we're working with JP Morgan, who've posted a lot of roles with us. So if anybody's working in financial services and are looking for roles in Bournemouth, UK, we have a lot of great roles there right now.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, but I'm sure, and there'd be a way to register, and then you get job alerts or
Exactly.
people alerts as people sign up.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a way to go on as well if you, like we said, at the beginning, where you might know people that would be interested in job sharing? Is there a way to sort of invite them to join the platform and then?
Yeah, sure. You can definitely share on Roleshare, but it's something as simple as just, sharing the URL. Like, we're pretty easy to remember, roleshare.com. Anybody can just go and create a profile. It's free for talent. So there's no cost to people who are looking to share a role.
Brilliant. And then there's obviously, and then companies that are interested in hiring job sharing people, partners.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so for companies who are interested in hiring, I would say, like, not just hiring, but retaining and hiring diverse talent who don't fit that full-time mold, for their mid to senior roles, then we'd love to speak with them.
Brilliant. And so they can get in touch with you on LinkedIn, I assume.
Exactly. Sophie Smallwood on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. And actually, before we close, really good to get some ideas of some. Do you know what's the highest profile job share couple that you know of?
I would say co-CEOs are probably the highest profile job sharers that we know, right? And there's definitely a growing trend of co-CEOs, both in the startup world.
The lady at M&S, is she a job share? Did I read?
Definitely, yes. M&S, I believe, announced recently. I don't know exactly which role it was, but they were senior leaders, maybe COOs at M&S, or was it John Lewis? One of them. COOs are now role sharing. But we are seeing a lot more companies, in fact, a lot of new startups coming out with co-CEOs, and JP Morgan Chase not long ago in the US announced that they had co-CEOs. Netflix have co-CEOs. There's a wide array of companies that are going that way. So we're talking high profile, like, a seniority level. I can't think of something, more high profile than the co-CEOs of Netflix right now.
Yeah. Brilliant. And you're right. We've all got a Netflix account, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it was so good to chat with you, Sophie. So remind us all of the website again.
Yeah, roleshare.com.
Brilliant. Someone said the new female M&S CEO works 4 days a week.
Amazing.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us. It's been so good to chat with you today.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Get in touch. What's the best way? Is it just through LinkedIn, or do you have an email?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is fine. You can direct message me, or you can just email me direct, sophie@roleshare.com.
Brilliant. All right, lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sophie. And thanks to everyone that's watched. Bye.